She stands at the gateway to America, her torch blazing against the New York skyline. For over a century, she's been the first face millions have seen when arriving at these shores. But what if I told you that almost everything you think you know about Lady Liberty is only the beginning of her story? Beneath her copper skin lies a tale of international intrigue, political rebellion, and secrets that have remained hidden in plain sight for over 140 years. Why was she really built? What messages did her creators encode into every detail of her design? And what mysteries lie within her hollow frame that even most historians have overlooked? This is not just the story of a statue. This is the story of a symbol that nearly never existed, a gift that almost sparked an international crisis, and a monument that holds secrets powerful enough to change how we see American history itself. Welcome to the untold story of the Statue of Liberty. What you're about to discover will make you question on everything you thought you knew about this iconic figure. And I guarantee, by the end of this documentary, you'll never look at Lady Liberty the same way again. Our story begins not in America, but in France, in the year 1865. The American Civil War has just ended, and in a small French village, two men share dinner and a dream that will change the world forever. Édouard René de la Boulaye, a French political thinker and abolitionist, sits across from a young sculptor named Frédéric Auguste Bartholdi. They discuss a radical idea. What if France gave America a monument to celebrate the triumph of liberty and the abolition of slavery? But this wasn't just about art. It was about politics, revolution, and sending a message to their own government. You see, France in the 1860s was under the iron grip of Napoleon III's authoritarian regime. Freedom of speech was suppressed. Democracy was dying. Laboulaye and his circle of Republican intellectuals couldn't speak openly against their own government, so they conceived a brilliant plan: create a monument to liberty in America that would inspire democracy revolution back home in France. Bartholdi became obsessed with the project. For years, he sketched, dreamed, and planned. But there was a problem. How do you build the largest statue the world has ever seen? How do you transport it across an ocean? And most importantly, who would pay for it? In 1871, Bartholdi traveled to America, carrying his vision with him. He sailed into New York Harbor and knew instantly where she must stand. He pitched his idea to everyone who would listen, from President Ulysses S. Grant to wealthy industrialists. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. Americans weren't immediately sold on the idea. Many saw it as a French vanity project. The deal was this: France would build the statue, America would build the pedestal. Simple, right? Wrong. Bartholdi returned to France and partnered with the brilliant engineer Alexandre Gustave Eiffel. Yes, the same Eiffel who would later build the famous tower in Paris. Together, they devised an ingenious solution: a flexible iron skeleton inside a copper shell. The statue would be assembled in pieces, like the world's most complex puzzle. For over a decade, French craftsmen worked relentlessly. They hammered copper sheets over wooden molds, creating individual sections of the statue. The project was funded entirely by the French people, through donations, lotteries, and public entertainment. Meanwhile, in America, Fundraising for the pedestal stalled. Americans simply didn't want to pay for it. By 1885, the statue sat fully assembled in Paris, towering over the city skyline, while in New York, the pedestal remained unfinished, barely 10 feet tall. The project was on the verge of collapse. France had fulfilled its promise, but America was failing to hold up its end of the bargain. Enter Joseph Pulitzer, the legendary newspaper publisher. Furious that America might reject this magnificent gift, he launched a fundraising campaign. Through his newspaper, the New York World, he published the names of every donor, no matter how small. Children sent in pennies. Working-class families contributed what they could. In just 5 months, Pulitzer raised over $100,000, enough to complete the pedestal. The statue arrived in New York Harbor in June 1885. It took 4 months to reassemble her on her new pedestal. Finally, on October 28, 1886, President Grover Cleveland dedicated the Statue of Liberty before thousands of cheering spectators. But the dedication ceremony nearly ended in disaster. A premature signal caused the unveiling to happen while a speaker was mid-sentence. The crowd erupted in chaos. Boats in the harbor blasted their horns. Bartholdi, standing inside the torch, heard the commotion and pulled the cord, revealing Lady Liberty's face to the world for the first time. Now, you might think that's where the story ends, but that's where the real mysteries begin. Because hidden within this colossal figure are secrets that will absolutely blow your mind. Before Lady Liberty found her home in New York Harbor, Bartholdi had an entirely different vision and a different client. In the 1860s, he designed a massive statue called Egypt, carrying the light to Asia. A robed female figure holding a torch, intended to stand at the entrance of the Suez Canal. He pitched the idea to Ismail Pasha, the Khedive of Egypt, imagining it as a lighthouse for ships entering the canal. But Egypt rejected the proposal, calling it too expensive. Bartholdi, refusing to let his vision die, repurposed the design, transforming the Egyptian peasant woman into the Roman goddess Libertas, and redirected his ambition toward America. This means the iconic symbol of American freedom was actually a recycled concept, originally meant to celebrate a Middle Eastern infrastructure project. From 1886 until 1902, the Statue of Liberty functioned as an actual lighthouse, though not a particularly effective one. The torch was fitted with electric lights that could supposedly be seen 24 miles away, and the statue was officially maintained by the United States Lighthouse Board. However, the light was so dim and positioned so high that it proved nearly useless for navigation. Ships' captains complained they couldn't distinguish it from the lights of Manhattan. After 16 years of impractical service, the lighthouse duties were transferred to the War Department, and Lady Liberty retired from her brief maritime career, proving that even the most symbolic of monuments can have surprisingly mundane day jobs. Despite her imposing presence and massive scale, standing 305 feet from the ground to the tip of her torch, the Statue of Liberty is incredibly delicate. Her copper exterior is only 2.4 millimeters thick, about the width of 2 pennies stacked together. This means that if she were scaled down to the height of an average person, her skin would be thinner than a sheet of paper. The copper sheets were painstakingly hammered by hand, using a technique called repoussé, where craftsmen worked the metal over wooden molds to create the statue's contours. When she was first unveiled, the copper gleamed like a new penny, but the thin metal meant she was vulnerable to the elements. And within 20 years, the oxidation process transformed her into the iconic green color we know today. The torch that Lady Liberty raises triumphantly contains a secret that has been locked away from public view since 1916. Originally, visitors could climb all the way up into the torch itself, accessing a small viewing platform where they could look out through the windows of the flame. However, during World War I, German saboteurs orchestrated the Black Tom explosion, a massive terrorist attack on a nearby munitions depot in Jersey City. The blast was so powerful, it sent shrapnel flying into the statue, causing significant structural damage, particularly to the torch and the raised right arm. The torch was so badly damaged that it has never been reopened to the public. Today, the original torch, with its mangled structure and secret wartime scars, sits in the statue's museum, while a new, reinforced torch topped with 24-karat gold leaf has replaced it on the statue itself. The words, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses," are now inseparable from the Statue of Liberty's meaning. But Emma Lazarus's poem, The New Colossus, was nearly forgotten entirely. Lazarus, a Jewish-American poet, wrote the sonnet in 1883 to help raise funds for the pedestal. After she read it at a fundraising auction, the poem disappeared into obscurity. Lazarus died in 1887 at age 38, and her poem was largely forgotten. It wasn't until 1903, 16 years after her death, that a friend of Lazarus campaigned to have the poem mounted inside the pedestal. Even then, it remained relatively unknown until the 1930s and 1940s, when it was rediscovered and promoted by immigrant advocacy groups. Today, those words define the statue's purpose, but they were an afterthought, added nearly 2 decades after Lady Liberty first raised her torch. Most visitors never realize that Lady Liberty is standing on broken shackles and chains, because they're almost impossible to see from ground level. At her feet, barely visible unless you view her from above, lie the remnants of broken chains, symbolizing freedom from oppression and the recent abolition of slavery in America. This detail was intentional and profoundly significant. Bartholdi and Aboli were both abolitionists who despised slavery, and they designed the statue as a celebration of emancipation as much as American independence. The broken chains were meant to be one of the statue's most powerful features, yet due to the angle of viewing and the height of the pedestal, this crucial symbol of liberation remains hidden from most of the millions who visit each year. Bartholdi's original vision for the Statue of Liberty was far more opulent and extravagant than what was ultimately built. Early designs show that he intended the statue to be covered in gold leaf, gleaming brilliantly in the sunlight as a beacon visible for miles. The golden Lady Liberty would have been a stunning sight, reflecting the rays of the sun and literally embodying enlightenment. However, the cost of gold leaf on such a massive scale was absolutely prohibitive, and the project was already struggling with funding. Bartholdi made the practical decision to use copper instead, which was far more affordable and still provided the impressive scale he envisioned. While we lost the golden goddess, we gained something perhaps more beautiful: the natural green patina that has become the statue's trademark, a color that neither Bartholdi nor anyone else anticipated when she was first designed. One of the most enduring mysteries surrounding the Statue of Liberty is whose face Bartholdi used as his model. Multiple theories have circulated for over a century, each with passionate supporters and circumstantial evidence. The most popular theory claims Bartholdi modeled Liberty's face after his mother, Charlotte Bartholdi, a stern and domineering woman who supposedly possessed similar strong, classical features. Others insist The face belongs to Isabella Boyer, the widow of sewing machine magnate Isaac Singer, who Bartholdi knew personally and may have been romantically involved with. Some historians argue the face is entirely idealized, not based on any real person, but rather on Roman sculptures of the goddess Libertas. Bartholdi himself never revealed the truth, taking the secret to his grave in 1904. The mystery endures, and Liberty's face remains hauntingly anonymous, belonging to everyone and no one at once. The Statue of Liberty is one of the most frequently struck structures by lightning in the entire United States. Standing alone on her island with a metal framework and holding a metal torch pointed skyward, she's essentially a 305-foot lightning rod. Scientists estimate that Lady Liberty is struck by lightning approximately 600 times annually, sometimes multiple times during a single storm. Incredibly, the statue was designed to withstand these strikes. Eiffel's ingenious iron skeleton acts as a natural conductor, channeling the electrical current safely into the ground. Visitors inside during storms are completely safe because the metal framework creates a Faraday cage effect. High-speed photography has captured stunning images of lightning bolts striking her torch and crown simultaneously, creating a spectacular, natural fireworks display. She absorbs millions of volts regularly, yet stands unharmed, making her not just a symbol of liberty, but also a monument to brilliant engineering. The 7 spikes radiating from Lady Liberty's crown are among her most recognizable features, but their symbolism is more complex than most realize. The obvious interpretation is that they represent the 7 continents and 7 seas, suggesting that liberty is a universal concept meant to spread across the entire globe. However, deeper research reveals additional layers of meaning. Some historians argue the 7 spikes represent the 7 virtues of classical philosophy, while others connect them to the 7 days of creation or the 7 liberal arts. What's certain is that the number 7 was deliberately chosen for its symbolic power across multiple cultures and belief systems. Additionally, each spike contains a window, allowing light to enter the crown's interior, and originally allowing visitors to peer out through these windows. These viewing portals transformed Lady Liberty's crown into a literal beacon of enlightenment, where visitors could stand inside enlightenment itself and look out at the world. While everyone focuses on the torch in Liberty's raised right hand, few people pay attention to what she's holding in her left hand. A tablet inscribed with the date July 4, MDCC LXXV, July 4th, 1776. This tablet, called a tabula ansata in classical architecture, is a direct reference to ancient Roman law tablets, connecting American independence to the republican ideals of ancient Rome. But here's what's truly fascinating. The tablet is positioned resting against her side, tilted slightly backward, making the inscription almost completely illegible from ground level. Most visitors never even notice she's holding anything at all. This placement was intentional, designed to be read by arriving ships and aircraft, not ground viewers. The tablet represents the law, suggesting that true liberty exists only under the rule of law, not lawlessness. It's a subtle but powerful message about the relationship between freedom and civic responsibility that most visitors completely miss. Gustave Eiffel's internal framework for the Statue of Liberty was nothing short of revolutionary and directly influenced the development of skyscraper construction. Before Liberty, large structures were supported by thick exterior walls that bore the entire weight. Eiffel designed a flexible iron skeleton that would support the copper skin from within, allowing the outer surface to move independently of the structural support. This was the same principle that would soon enable the construction of the world's first skyscrapers. The skeleton consists of 4 massive iron columns supporting a metal framework that connects to the copper skin through flat iron bars. This design allows the statue to sway up to 3 inches in high winds, while the copper skin can expand and contract with temperature changes. The engineering was so advanced that when the statue underwent renovation in the 1980s, engineers were astonished at how sophisticated Eiffel's design was, predating modern engineering principles by decades. It's difficult to imagine today, surrounded by Manhattan's forest of skyscrapers. But when the Statue of Liberty was completed in 1886, she was the tallest structure in New York City. At 305 feet from ground to torch tip, she dominated the skyline, visible from almost anywhere in the harbor and lower Manhattan. No building in the city came close to her height. For 4 years, she held this distinction, until 1890, when the New York World Building surpassed her at 309 feet. But during those 4 years, she was the undisputed queen of the skyline, the first thing arriving immigrants saw, and the last thing departing ships remembered. This context makes her original impact even more profound. She wasn't just a statue. She was the tallest human-made structure most people had ever seen, a colossus that literally towered over everything else, making her symbolic power even more overwhelming to those who first glimpsed her from the decks of arriving ships. The torch visible today on the Statue of Liberty is not the original torch that Bartholdi designed and that stood for the statue's first 30 years. The original torch was significantly altered in 1916 when the superintendent of the statue, seeking to make the torch brighter, cut away hundreds of pieces of the copper flame and replaced them with amber-colored glass panels, essentially turning the torch into a giant lantern. These unauthorized modifications fundamentally changed the structural integrity of the torch and allowed water to seep inside, causing extensive corrosion damage to the arm. When the Black Tom explosion occurred later that year, the compromised torch suffered even more damage. By the 1980s restoration, engineers determined the original torch was beyond repair. It was removed, preserved, and placed in the statue's museum, where visitors can see the battle-scarred, illegally modified original. The replacement torch, installed in 1986, is a faithful recreation of Bartholdi's original design, covered in 24-karat gold leaf to make it shine as he always intended. Few people know that during World War II, the United States military developed secret contingency plans to destroy the Statue of Liberty rather than allow her to fall into enemy hands. In the early years of the war, when Nazi Germany appeared unstoppable and invasion seemed possible, military strategists worried that if New York Harbor were captured, the Statue of Liberty would be used as a propaganda tool by the enemy. Classified documents reveal that demolition experts identified structural weak points and calculated the precise amount of explosives needed to topple her. The plan included evacuating the island under cover of darkness, planting charges at key points in Eiffel's framework, and detonating remotely if invasion became imminent. Guard forces were doubled, and a classified protocol was established for the statue's destruction. Fortunately, these dark plans were never executed, and the contingency orders were eventually declassified decades later, revealing how close Lady Liberty came to being destroyed by the very nation she symbolized, in order to prevent her from becoming a symbol of our defeat. So there you have it, the Statue of Liberty, a monument we thought we knew, revealed as something far more complex, mysterious, and fascinating than we ever imagined. From her origins as a rejected design for Egypt, to the secret scars she carries from terrorist attacks, to government plans to destroy her rather than surrender her, Lady Liberty is not just a statue. She's a survivor. She's a keeper of secrets. She's a symbol that has been fought over, reimagined, damaged, and restored, yet still stands defiant against the sky. But here's the question that should haunt you. If these 15 secrets were hiding in plain sight all along, what else don't we know? What other mysteries lie buried in her archives, encrypted in her design, or locked away in classified files? The Statue of Liberty isn't just about the past. She's about the future, about the constant struggle to define what freedom means, who deserves it, and how we protect it. Every crack in her copper skin, every modification to her structure, every story we've uncovered today is a reminder that symbols are never static. They evolve. They carry the weight of every generation that looks up at them. As you go about your day, remember this: the most iconic symbols often hold the deepest secrets. The things we think we know best are frequently the things we understand least. If this documentary opened your eyes to the hidden history around us, imagine what else you're missing. What secrets are encoded in the monuments you pass every day? What untold stories are waiting in the shadows of the familiar? Don't let this be where your journey ends. Subscribe now, because next week we're uncovering the shocking truth behind another American icon. And trust me, what we've discovered will shake everything you thought you knew about American history to its core. The rabbit hole goes deeper than you ever imagined. The question is, are you brave enough to follow it? Hit that subscribe button, because once you know these secrets, there's no going back. The hidden history of America is waiting, and Lady Liberty has shown us that the most powerful truths are often the ones hiding in plain sight. Don't miss what comes next. Your perception of reality depends on it.